Hello everyone! Welcome back to English Listening and Speaking channel. Don't forget to subscribe my channel for more videos every day.
Easy English Story for Beginners, English Listening Practice channel. Hello and welcome to our English Stories and Listening Practice channel. Today, we are going to listen to a simple and interesting English story called I Invited My Friend to Dinner. This story is about a young woman named Emma and her best friend, Sophie. Emma has had a very busy week at work. She feels tired and stressed, so she decides to do something nice for her friend. She invites Sophie to her home for dinner. Emma plans to cook a delicious meal, but things do not go exactly as planned. She has problems at the supermarket. She forgets some important ingredients. Her food does not turn out perfectly. And then, just before dinner, something unexpected happens. But in the end, Emma learns an important lesson about friendship. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this easy English story. My name is Emma. I am 26 years old. I live in a small apartment in a busy city. I work at a marketing company. I like my job, but sometimes it is very stressful. This week was especially difficult. On Monday, I had 3 meetings. On Tuesday, I had to finish an important report. On Wednesday, I worked until 7 o'clock in the evening. On Thursday, I had a problem with a client. And on Friday, I was completely tired. When I finally finished work on Friday afternoon, I closed my laptop and looked at the clock. It was 5:30. I was ready to go home. I put my things in my bag and stood up. As I walked out of the office, I thought about my weekend. I wanted to relax. I wanted to stay home. I wanted to watch a movie. But then I thought about my best friend, Sophie. Sophie and I had not spent much time together recently. We were both very busy. Sometimes we sent messages to each other. Sometimes we called each other. But we had not seen each other for almost 2 weeks. I missed her. Suddenly, I had an idea. I took out my phone and sent her a message. Hi, Sophie. Are you free tomorrow evening? A few minutes later, my phone made a sound. It was Sophie. Yes, I am. Why? I smiled. I wrote, Would you like to come to my apartment for dinner? There was no answer for a few seconds. Then my phone rang. It was Sophie. I answered. Hello? Emma, did you just invite me to dinner? I laughed. Yes. Are you cooking? Yes. Really? Yes, really. Sophie laughed. Okay, I'm coming. Great. What are you going to cook? I thought for a moment. I haven't decided yet. Emma! I will decide soon. Okay, I'm trusting you. Don't worry, I said. It will be delicious. I ended the call and smiled. Suddenly, I was no longer tired. I was excited. I was going to cook dinner for my best friend. When I got home, I opened my refrigerator. I looked inside. There was not much food. I had some eggs, I had some vegetables, I had a little cheese. I also had half a bottle of orange juice. That was all. I laughed. This is not enough for dinner. I sat at my kitchen table and started thinking. What should I cook? I wanted to make something special. But I also wanted something simple. I was not a professional cook. I was actually not a very good cook. I could make simple meals. I could cook eggs. I could make pasta. I could make soup. But I wanted to impress Sophie. After thinking for a few minutes, I decided to make pasta with chicken and vegetables. For dessert, I would make chocolate cake. I had never made chocolate cake before, but I thought, how difficult can it be? I opened my laptop and searched for a recipe, I found one that looked easy. The recipe said I needed flour, sugar, eggs, chocolate, butter, and milk. I wrote everything down. Then I made a shopping list. Chicken, pasta, tomatoes, onions, garlic, cheese, flour, sugar, chocolate, butter, milk. I looked at my list. It was a long list, but I was ready. I decided to go shopping on Saturday morning. Then I sent Sophie another message. Dinner is tomorrow at 7. She replied, "Perfect. Should I bring anything?" I thought about it. "No, just bring yourself." She sent me a heart emoji. I smiled. This was going to be a great evening. The next morning, I woke up at 8 o'clock. I got dressed and walked to the supermarket. The supermarket was only 10 minutes from my apartment. When I arrived, I took a shopping cart. I looked at my list. First, I needed chicken. I walked to the meat section. There were many different kinds of chicken. I looked at the packages. Finally, I chose one. Then, I went to the vegetable section. I picked up tomatoes. I picked up onions. I picked up garlic. I also bought some green peppers. Then, I remembered the pasta. I walked to another section. I found the pasta I wanted. Then, I looked at my list again. Cheese. I found cheese. Flour. I found flour. Sugar. I found sugar. Chocolate. I found chocolate. Butter. I found butter. Milk. I found milk. I looked at my shopping cart. It was full. Then I noticed something. I had forgotten the eggs. Oh no! I walked back to the egg section. I picked up a box of eggs. Then I looked at my list again. Everything was there. I was ready to pay. I went to the checkout. The cashier smiled. "Good morning. Good morning." She scanned my groceries, one by one. Beep, beep, beep. Then she told me the total. I paid with my card. I took my bags and left the supermarket. I was carrying 2 heavy bags. I walked slowly home. When I arrived at my apartment, I put the bags on the kitchen table. I was tired, but I was happy. I looked at all the food. "Okay, Emma," I said to myself, "let's make a great dinner." It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Dinner was at 7. I had 4 hours. That was plenty of time. At least, I thought it was. I started with the dessert. I wanted to make the chocolate cake first. I followed the recipe carefully. First, I put flour into a bowl. Then I added sugar. Then I added eggs. Then milk. Then butter. Finally, I added chocolate. I mixed everything together. The mixture looked good. I poured it into a cake pan. Then I put it in the oven. I set the timer. 35 minutes. While the cake was cooking, I started preparing the dinner. I cut the chicken into small pieces. I cut the tomatoes. I cut the onions. I cut the green peppers. I chopped the garlic. My kitchen became very busy. There were vegetables everywhere. I put the chicken in a pan. I added some oil. The chicken started to cook. It smelled delicious. I smiled. This is going to be great. Then I heard the oven. Beep! The cake was ready. I opened the oven. The cake looked beautiful. I took it out. I put it on the kitchen table. I waited for it to cool. Then I looked at the chicken. Something was wrong. The chicken was still raw in the middle. Oh no. I turned the heat up. I continued cooking. Then I started making the pasta. I filled a large pot with water. I added salt. Then I turned on the stove. Everything was going well. Or so I thought. Suddenly, I heard a strange sound. Sizzle. I looked at the chicken. The pan was very hot. The chicken was starting to burn. Oh no! I quickly turned down the heat. I moved the chicken around the pan. Some pieces were too dark. Some pieces were still not cooked. I was worried. Then I smelled something. The cake! I forgot about the cake! I quickly opened the oven. Smoke came out. Oh no! I took the cake out. It was completely burned. The top was black. I looked at it. I could not believe it. My beautiful chocolate cake was ruined. I started laughing. I was standing in my kitchen with a burned cake, half-cooked chicken, and vegetables everywhere. What am I doing? I looked at the clock. It was 4:30. I still had 2.5 hours. I had time to fix everything. I decided to make another cake. But this time, I would be more careful. I cleaned the kitchen. Then I started again. I made the cake mixture. This time, I set a timer on my phone. I put the cake in the oven. Then I returned to the chicken. I cooked it slowly. I checked every piece. This time, it was perfect. I felt relieved. Then I started the pasta. Everything was finally under control. I looked at the clock. 5:30. 1.5 hours until Sophie arrived. I had plenty of time. I sat down for a moment. I was tired. I closed my eyes. Just for a minute, I thought. But I fell asleep. When I opened my eyes, I was confused. I looked around. Then I looked at the clock. 6:30. Oh my goodness! I jumped up. I had only 30 minutes before Sophie arrived. I ran into the kitchen. The pasta was ready. The chicken was ready. The vegetables were ready. But the cake... I quickly looked at the oven. The cake was still inside. I opened the oven. It looked perfect. I smiled. At least one thing was going well. Then I heard my phone. It was Sophie. She was calling. I answered. Hi, Sophie. Hi, Emma. I'm on my way. Great. I'll be there in about 30 minutes. Okay. I looked around my apartment. It was a mess. There were dishes everywhere. There were vegetables on the kitchen table. There were dirty bowls in the sink. I had to clean everything. See you soon, I said. See ya. I ended the call. Then I started cleaning. I washed the dishes. I cleaned the table. I put the food on plates. I put the cake on a beautiful plate. Then I changed my clothes. I looked in the mirror. My hair was messy. I quickly fixed my hair. I put on a nice shirt. Then I looked at the clock. 6:55. 5 minutes. I ran back to the kitchen. Everything was ready. I took a deep breath. I was finally ready. Then I heard the doorbell. Ding dong. Sophie had arrived. I opened the door. Sophie was standing outside. She was holding a small bag. Hi, she said. Hi. She gave me a big hug. Come in. She walked inside. Wow, your apartment smells amazing. I smiled. Thank you. Then Sophie looked at the kitchen. You cooked all this? Yes. Emma, this looks wonderful. I felt happy. But I knew the truth. It had not been easy. I almost burned everything. I almost gave up. And I had slept through part of the afternoon. But somehow, everything was ready. Sophie gave me the small bag. "What is this?" "I brought something for you." I opened it. Inside was a small box of chocolates. "Oh, Sophie! I thought we could have them after dinner." "Thank you." We sat at the table. I served the food. First, we had the pasta. Then we had chicken with vegetables. Sophie took her first bite. I waited. She looked at me. I was nervous. "Well?" She smiled. "This is delicious." "Really?" "Yes." I took a bite. It was actually pretty good. I laughed. "I can't believe it." "Why?" "Because I almost burned everything." Sophie laughed. "What?" I told her about the first cake. I told her about the chicken. I told her about falling asleep. Sophie laughed so hard. "You are a terrible cook." "I know. But the food is good." "Thank you." We continued eating. We talked about our week. We talked about work. We talked about our families. We talked about our future plans. It felt good to talk. After dinner, we moved to the sofa. I brought the chocolate cake. I cut 2 pieces. Sophie took a bite. She smiled. "This is really good." I smiled. "This one is the second cake." "The second cake?" "Yes." "What happened to the first one?" "It was burned." Sophie laughed. "You should have invited me to dinner a long time ago." "Why?" "Because this is fun." I smiled. Then Sophie became quiet. She looked at me. "Emma, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you okay?" I was surprised. "What do you mean?" "You have been very busy recently." I looked down. She was right. I had been working too much. I had been tired all the time. I had stopped doing things I enjoyed. I had not spent enough time with my friends. "I think you're right," I said. "I've been very stressed." Sophie nodded. I noticed. I smiled. "I'm sorry." "You don't need to be sorry. I just feel like I have too much work." "I understand." There was a short silence. Then Sophie said, "You know, you don't always have to do everything perfectly." I looked at her. "What do you mean?" "Look at tonight." I looked around. The kitchen was still a little messy. There were dishes in the sink, but we were sitting together. We were laughing. We were happy. Sophie continued, "You wanted to make the perfect dinner." "Yes, but you didn't need to." I smiled. "You're right. You just needed to invite your friend." I laughed. "That sounds simple." It is simple. I thought about her words. She was right. I had spent hours worrying about the food. I wanted everything to be perfect. But the best part of the evening was not the food. It was the conversation. It was the laughter. It was spending time with my best friend. After we finished our cake, Sophie stood up. "I have one more thing for you." "What?" "Wait here." She walked to the door. Then she came back with a small paper bag. She gave it to me. "What is this?" "Open it." I opened the bag. Inside was a beautiful notebook. The cover was blue. There was a small picture of a mountain on it. I looked at Sophie. "This is beautiful. I thought you could use it." "What for?" "For your new plans." I smiled. "What new plans?" "You need more time for yourself." She was right. I had been thinking about taking a vacation. But I always said, maybe next month. Or maybe next year. I never made a real plan. I opened the notebook. On the first page, Sophie had written something. It said, "Make time for the people and things that make you happy." I looked at her. That is so sweet. I mean it. After that, we decided to watch a movie. We chose an old comedy. We sat on the sofa. We ate the chocolates Sophie had brought. The movie was funny. We laughed many times. At one point, I looked at the clock. It was almost 11. "Wow," I said. "It's late." Sophie looked surprised. "Really?" "Yes." "I thought it was only 9. We laughed. Time had passed quickly. The movie ended. Sophie stood up. "I should go home." "Do you have to?" "Yes, I have work tomorrow." "Me too." We walked to the door. Sophie put on her coat. "Thank you for dinner," she said. "Thank you for coming." "I had a great time." "Me too." She smiled. "Let's do this again." "Definitely." Then she left. I closed the door. My apartment was quiet. I looked around. The table was messy. There were dishes in the sink. The kitchen needed cleaning. But I didn't care. I was happy. I picked up the notebook Sophie had given me. I sat at the table. I opened it. I thought about my life. I thought about work. I thought about my friends. I thought about how quickly time passes. Sometimes we are so busy trying to build a good life that we forget to enjoy the life we already have. I took a pen. On the first page, under Sophie's message, I wrote, "I will make more time for the people I love." Then, I closed the notebook. The next morning, I woke up early. I felt different. I was still tired, but I felt happy. I went to the kitchen. I cleaned the dishes. Then I cleaned the table. I found the burned cake from the day before. I laughed. I threw it away. Then I looked at the clock. I had to go to work. Before I left my apartment, I looked at the blue notebook. I picked it up. I put it in my bag. I decided to take it to work. During my lunch break, I opened the notebook. I wrote a list. The list was called Things I Want to Do. Number 1, spend more time with my friends. Number 2, take a short vacation. Number 3, learn to cook better. Number 4, read more books. Number 5, relax without feeling guilty. I looked at the list. It was simple, but it felt important. Then I added one more thing. Number 6, have dinner with Sophie again. I smiled. I knew I would invite her again. But next time, I would not try to make everything perfect. 1 week later, I sent Sophie a message. "Are you free this Friday?" She replied quickly. "Why?" I wrote, "I want to invite you to dinner again." She called me immediately. "Emma!" "What? Are you cooking again?" I laughed. "Maybe." "Should I be worried?" "No." "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Okay, I'm coming." This time, I had a different plan. I did not want to spend all day cooking. So I suggested that we cook together. When Sophie arrived, we went to the supermarket. We bought some ingredients. Then we came home. We cooked together. Sophie chopped the vegetables. I cooked the chicken. We made pasta. We talked and laughed while we cooked. This time, I did not feel stressed. I did not worry about making perfect food. I did not worry about making a perfect dinner. We simply enjoyed our time together. After dinner, we sat at the table. Sophie looked at me. "You know what?" "What?" "I think this dinner is even better than the first one." "Why?" "Because you are not stressed." I smiled. "You're right." We both laughed. Then we ate our dessert. It was not homemade chocolate cake. It was ice cream. And honestly, it was perfect. That first dinner with Sophie taught me an important lesson. I thought I needed to make the perfect meal. I thought I needed a clean apartment. I thought everything had to be perfect. But I was wrong. When you invite a friend to dinner, the most important thing is not the food. It is not the table. It is not the decorations. It is not the expensive dishes. The most important thing is the time you spend together. A good friend does not care if your cake is burned. A good friend does not care if your kitchen is messy. A good friend cares about you. Sometimes we make life more difficult than it needs to be. We worry too much. We try too hard. We forget to enjoy simple moments. But a simple dinner with a good friend can make a difficult week feel better. A simple conversation can make you feel less alone. A simple laugh can change your mood. And a small invitation can become a beautiful memory. Since that day, Sophia and I have had dinner together many times. Sometimes we cook. Sometimes we order food. Sometimes we eat at a restaurant. But every time, we talk. We laugh. We share stories. We talk about our problems. We talk about our dreams. And we enjoy being together. I still work at the same company. My job is still sometimes stressful. I still have busy weeks. But now, I try to remember something important. Life is not only about work. Life is not only about success. Life is also about the people we love. It is about friendship. It is about laughter. It is about sharing a meal. It is about sitting at a table and saying, "How was your week?" Sometimes, that is all we need. So, if you have a friend you haven't seen for a long time, why not send them a message? You can say, "Would you like to have dinner with me?" It doesn't have to be a fancy dinner. It doesn't have to be expensive. You don't need to be a great cook. You just need to make time. Because sometimes a simple dinner can become a wonderful memory. And sometimes the best gift you can give someone is simply your time. Here are some useful phrases you can practice. Are you free tomorrow evening? Would you like to come to my apartment for dinner? What are you going to cook? Should I bring anything? Just bring yourself. I'm on my way. Come in. Dinner is ready. This is delicious. I had a great time. Thank you for coming. Let's do this again. You don't always have to do everything perfectly. Make time for the people and things that make you happy. Thank you for listening to I Invited My Friend to Dinner. I hope you enjoyed this easy English story. I also hope this story helped you practice your English listening, vocabulary, pronunciation, and comprehension. Remember, you don't need a perfect life to be happy. Sometimes, happiness can be as simple as sitting at a table with a good friend. Keep listening. Keep practicing. Keep learning English. And most importantly, make time for the people who make your life better. See you in the next English story.